Hi, Ottawa. It's terrific to be here. I've been here for a couple of days exploring your city and region. I don't get here very often from Waterloo. And my partner and I drove in, and one thing that we really wanted to do was to go to the Diefen Bunker. So we did that a couple days ago. And so I brought a themed poem for the Diefen Bunker. I wrote it many years ago, but I'm bringing it in today to read. If you haven't been, you should go, because there are parts of it that are like finely curated down to these tiny details, and parts that have been, sort of finely neglected, right? And it's hard to say which is more fascinating, the kinds of things that really look like they haven't been touched since 1963, or the things that have been written about and gone over with fine-tooth comb. But I recommend it on both counts, So this is called Emergency Broadcast. We bought the theremin because we could not imagine pleasure greater than learning how to tingle our own spines. I confess, I could not shake the belief that the effigy from the Corbomite maneuver sang the high notes at the end of Star Trek. The air raid siren called one morning and I chased it on my bike. If we sing together, we can sound exactly like the test of the emergency broadcast system. This is only a test. We can blend two notes perfectly to produce a strain of anxiety that can't be ignored. If this had been an actual for the next 60 seconds, this concludes. The following is, you would have been. My next couple of poems will come from this awesome magazine. Claire Fairley's here, publisher of Campus, and I know this was launched last year and I couldn't be here then, but I'm reading the poems from there today. I'm reading this full of anxiety and full of awareness that we now live in Doug Ford's Ontario. And I don't know what that's going to look like. But these are poems that are going to come out in my in mobile, in the book that I'm publishing with Book Club next year. And part of it is about women walking in the city. So it's about ability, disability, mobility, and also about public space and women in public spaces. And part of it is making it sound very theoretical, but it's not. Because part of it is narrated by a character, a Crazy Jane character. So if you know Crazy Jane from the Yeats poems, I've picked her up and I've dropped her in Toronto in about 2000. And so I'm thinking of the Crazy Jane character. I'm also thinking of a kind of homeless, sort of wise woman kind of figure who's also, she's kind of Jane Jacobs also. So a little Crazy Jane Jacobs. As a woman who knows what she's about. So here's our Crazy Jane living on the street, and I've called this one Crazy Jane City Cosmonaut. Crazy Jane, city cosmonaut, sleeps beneath a stone, whole soul rent, brooks no interferon, a woman of mixed address, and your best first night hag. Crazy Jane's your aunt, chained and smiling, suffrage, your mother dumpster diving, grinning to see you because she has found this perfectly good coat. Crazy Jane occupies soil, mojo, working a dynamically stable circus without bread. If Crazy Jane fried out, who among the furious order would not cry, Technopolis? Crazy Jane's, the scrub poplars at the parking lot at No Frills, the cormorant shit that's killing the trees. Crazy Jane's, thirsty, believes nothing dreams, but it's free. Crazy Jane's, a fumbly history of the Knox, Russian olive cocktail shoes, concrete and wild cannot. Crazy Jane's, apocalypse as crossword puzzle and a small incessant push of the cardiac legion, and she won't go on welfare because that's only for people who are really hard up. Crazy Jane's Wild Animals I Have Sown, and 64 alternate personalities, Iroquois, Furrow, Surrey, Avenue, Power, Dairy, Archive, Scrupulous, Sea, Folk, Hermetic, Dame Jane, Dam Jane, Dirt Jane, Lane Jane, in the Natural Ordure, Suburban Family, Rigged, Sprawled, to fail the dank age ahead. And if you were listening carefully, you'd have heard W.B. Yeats, Jane Jacobs, Dennis Lee, Raina Maria Rilke, Dennis Lee again, Dennis gets two, Erin Murray, Dion Brand, Meira Cook, Margaret Avison, Gwendolyn McEwen, Phil Hall, crammed into there. So that's my deeply elusive Crazy Jane poem. I thought we'd hear from Crazy Jane's actual voice in this one, Crazy Jane on the Cold. And I introduced this saying, I don't know what's going to happen in Thords, Ontario, because I'm thinking of people who are vulnerable, like my Jane character would be. But here's Crazy Jane on the cold and sleeping rough. I'm a leather cloud, and I get anywhere from 40 to 70 years an hour. It's a hard life if you don't weeten. Shelters wall you in, and someone chips away. They say the cold won't get you if you keep moving, but they don't know squat. Cold keeps good company. I've kept it myself. I'll tell you what's crazy. I've slept on steps and taken millions. Not one to complain, but if you think order is the way to go, you are barking up the wrong me. I want to read a couple from my collection, Rue the Day, available at the back. Wait, yeah, available at the back, that's good. I wrote a series in this book which imitated the way chapter titles go in Victorian novels, in which our hero falls in love, in which our hero has a revelation. So this one has several called In Which the Writer, right? So this one is called In Which the Writer Gets Advice During Speech Therapy. And there's kind of a trick to this one. So I'm going to describe the things that the speech therapist says in order to form the words, and your job is to try and figure out what the word is. I'm going to reveal it at the end. But, points if you figure out what the word is before I say it. Okay. In which the writer gets advice during speech therapy. Once you get the hang of it, believe me, it's not so hard. Not so much like dying as you might believe. Take a breath into your lungs, though it burns with a high, hot ting of oxygen. Drop your lower jaw for the first syllable. Widen your mouth with the vowel, the one that refers to you, yourself, the active subject. Now press your lips together as though you're deep in thought and hum. This will contract the verb into the subject. Just mash them together. No need to stand on ceremony. Now the hard part. Only the few and the brave go this far. Begin with a hiss. Don't linger on the serpent's tongue. Leap to the sound you'd make in sympathy if a child fell off a bike. Not hurt, but with a bruised sense of failure that comes from trying too hard, or not at all. You'll like the next bit. Growl as though you were only a little afraid. Then at last, grin like you mean it. Show your teeth and pronounce the most common vowel in our language. Now you're home free. Try it all together with me once. I'm sorry. Again, I'm sorry. Did anyone figure out the word before I said it? Okay. I'll do another one from Rue today. This one doesn't have a test, don't worry. This is called a Poetics. Hey, I was totally bitten by a tick in northern Saskatchewan a couple of weeks ago. It's gross, man. Oh. It's called a Poetics. It really doesn't have that much to do with wood ticks or deer ticks, but it's my little play on poetics, right? So, a Poetics. A poet ticks, you know she does. She ticks like a stopwatch, timing the fastest sentence in the West, speech act after speech act, and what's her perlocution? She ticks like a bomb, but she's not the bomb. She's just one more writer with one more bag of tricks, or a bag of ticks, a whole burlap sack teeming with wood ticks and potato bugs, insects of punctuation and drag. Oh, someone fumigate her house. Someone take a hot needle and lance the tick fattening on her own positive blood. She ticks like a lead pencil following a list, checking off item by item, making sure everything's in place until the list dissolves into a mush of paper left out in the rain beside the red wheelbarrow, the manuscript pecked at by those damn white chickens. She ticks like an egg timer, like a woman pacing in kitten heels, succumbing to a variety of facial and bodily tics, tiny seizures of the arm or neck. She's ticked off, and she's not going to take it anymore. A tisket, a tasket, hands off that blown gasket. She's got her ticket to ride, she's got her walking papers, she's talking her own tick, taking it up right, and who's going to tell her that she's not? I think when Jean introduced me, she was talking about some of my writing projects where I rewrite other people's work. You saw that I was using, allusions to other poets in that first poem. So this one is a rewrite of 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird, and this is called 13 Ways of Looking at a Limp. I have, I'm having a good sciatica day, which means I don't feel it today, but I have sciatica that is sometimes quite debilitating, and so I limp my way through life some days. And so this is 13 Ways of Looking at a Limp. 1. Among the pretty elbows and Cuban heels, the only thing moving was galump. 2. I am of slow leg, infantry in an analgesic war. 3. If ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny, then Darwin owes me a new hip and a 20-minute head start. 4. Many have tried to straighten me to fly right, but crooked is as crooked tries. 5. If you walk this miracle mile with me, I promise we'll be right as Ripley. My limp's a stiff joke. I do not know if it's with me or at me. 6. My little mermaid feet stab the stairs, pinwheels whir above my head. The glass in my right hip is sciatica shattered like Attica, and to ask after me is to act me out. 7. Call me Ahab. The plot of the limp is a constant search for prosthesis, and a good apparatus is hard to find. 8. My walking wound takes all day. There's no telling whose history is in the faking. I know Long John Silver takes no wasted steps. 9. You're too polite to notice, but crawling gives me the most distracting rug burn. 10. Oh, theatrical limp, why do you offer such cruel role models? Now is the limper of our discontent made sharply glorious. 11. I ache in the places where I used to fray. Glad someone got that, Leonard. It's great. Thanks, Leonard. I ache in the places where I used to fray. My leather leg end creaks. My legerdemain takes the waltz. My name is Legion, for I am many. 12. Grin and bear with me. I must be out of your mind. 13. I can't dance. Don't task me. To ask me out is to drag, and under the same stars, they shoot horses. Thanks. I was just saying to a couple people that a few weeks ago I had a double book birthday, which means that my books, Out of Line, Daring to be an Artist Outside the Big City, and Gush, Menstrual Manifestos for Our Times, I wrote this one and I co-edited this one. I couldn't have planned it this way. I conceived these books at completely different times, worked on them, some with overlapping, and then they actually came from the printer on the exact same day, right? My fraternal twins that were conceived on different days and born on the same day. I'm going to actually have a little guest reader from Gush. I edited this with Rosanna Deerchild, who some of you might know as the host of Unreserved on CBC, and it's also an excellent poet, and the Winnipeg poet Ariel Gordon, who some of you might know because I know she's come here through here a couple of times. And we have work from 112 menstruating people. Some poems, some creative nonfiction, and some fiction, including a horror fiction piece by Sam Bako that should stop the world. It's so awesome. So I definitely recommend it, and we've been having launches across the country with lots and lots of people joining in. So today I'm going to invite Pearl Peary, Pearl, there she is at the back, to come up and read her contribution. And then I'll read my contribution, and this will be, you know, a smallish Gush launch. Smallish. Please welcome Pearl.
Easier if I could just bring that to the light. Here we go. Plumbing. The guest cabin's dimensions are that of Thoreau's. The boards and logs rough-hewn. There is a sink with a tube to a bucket, keg of water, split from earth, cash coursed into plastic. Spring blossoms white, the diva cup is full. Squatting to pinch it out, it spills into the thirsty floor. A sin, a repenting. I have made a blood sacrifice, yet feel guilt more keenly than before. I scrub, but it's absorbed. I pour water, the water stains worse. Watermarks a ripple in the green. The tree still feels the season. Spring bursts a bead of sap from the cut limbs, immortal pine. And thanks to Tanis for putting this all together for all of the contributors and readers.
So this is a very fun anthology, and we have lots of work in here that works with the idea of the stain, as Pearl just read in her piece. And my piece in here is a poem, and I went a different route. A lot of people were writing their experience, and I thought, I'm tired of my experience. Let's have something else. Let's have a fantasy. So I'm thinking, what's an actual menstrual fantasy? And a menstrual fantasy for me was if I could actually see sort of menstrual experience show up in our pop culture, right? And I thought, all right, what would that look like? And so I wrote this poem, and it works with the idea of free bleeding, that is, not using any menstrual products at all, but just free bleeding. You've probably heard of this concept, and if you haven't, I'm glad to introduce it to you. So this is called Free Bleed Rock Anthem with Canadian content. Bleeding's just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing ain't worth nothing, so bleed free. Speaking words of wisdom, let it bleed. If I bleed free tomorrow, will you still remember me? There's a lady who's sure all who bleed free are gold, and she's sighing that free bleed is heaven. Emancipate yourself from product slavery. None but ourselves can free our bleed. Free, free bleeding woman. I can see your face, I can hear your voice, I can almost touch you. We all need someone we can bleed on, and if you want to, baby, you can bleed on me. One pill makes you larger, and one pill makes you small. And the one who dares to free bleed doesn't give any fucks at all. Go ask Alice, because she's 10 bleeds tall. Bleeding free was easy, Lord, when Janice sang the blues, 'cause bleeding free is good enough for me. In my mind, I still bleed the place I know. All my changes were there. Remember what the dormouse said. Free your head. The last thing I'll read is my dedication to Out of Line. The subtitle for Out of Line is called Daring to be an Artist Outside the Big City. And it was, it's a cliche that you write a book because you look for one and can't find the one that does the work that you want it to do, so you have to write it yourself. It was really true in this case. I was teaching creative writing, and my students started asking me questions that I didn't know how to answer in class. It's not like I didn't know the answers, but the answers were huge, right? And the question always came after I taught them like some techniques, and they started to really get rolling on it, and they started to produce work. And then that, sort of top of mind question got answered, and then they moved on to the much larger, anxious question. So the first question was, how do I write? And I go, here's some techniques, try them. They do it. Then they go, okay, wait, how do I keep writing? Like, how do I keep doing this? And, I teach in Waterloo, Ontario, and the mechanisms for people to keep writing, keep creating art of all kinds in a smaller city are very different than they are in a larger city. I think Ottawa's bigger than Waterloo, but I think you probably have some of the similar problems, the kind of art dream that happens to Montreal and to Toronto and of course to Vancouver as well. So I was interested in that idea of the smaller center, right? People who make art and keep doing it and find ways to keep going outside of our major literary centers, our major artistic centers. So I started writing this book as a kind of series of answers or a series of ways to think about that. And as soon as I started talking to more senior artists about that, they went, I want an answer to that too. This isn't just a beginner artist kind of question. I want to know how to do that too. So a series of good questions, and I answered them in under 200 pages. Oh my God. Right. So I have a very long dedication for this, and it takes the form of a prose poem, and it's called This Is For You. This is for you, sitting in the back of your high school class, or maybe in the front, bored and barely passing, or passing without trying and wondering why it all seems so formulaic. This is for you in the library, reading anything and everything you can get your hands on, not because you're so fascinated, although you might be sometimes, but because you never know what book might give you that sliver of light, the key to getting out of this place, this school, this set of expectations. This is for you who goes to church or temple or gurdwara at your parents' insistence and gets lost for a moment or two in the rhythm of the words or music or prayers or readings or the harmonies of hymns that you haven't believed in for years, but still they sound like leaving. They sound like art that gets made somewhere far, far away from here. This is for you, working that job that you wanted so badly, or that job you needed to pay the bills, and still thinking about the key to getting out of this place. But no, you don't want out. You only want more of what you get when you pick up a pen or a paintbrush or a sander here in this place. This is for you, your hidden weirdo glory in your rural community, your town without a theater, your small city with no writers, your family who just wants you to study science and be a doctor, who can move back home and serve the community. And yes, you agree with that in principle. That would be good. But for you in the suburbs, so close and yet so far from all the lights and the colors, from the dancing, from the art and its makers, this is for you, backstage crew too cool and afraid to go on stage in the high school play. And you're more into Zeppelin anyway, man. For you, yearbook staff, town headbanger, geek girl, girly boy, boily girl, young poets and painters, people who want to dance but don't know how, class clown and the shyest person in school, the one who says journalist, so you don't have to explain writer. the one who says commercial artist to explain your compulsive drawing. And so you don't have to say that you really want to leave this place and live in a garret far, far away. For you, who wants to read Toni Morrison or Eden Robinson or Ursula K. Le Guin for your book club, or go into the big city to see the Frida Kahlo exhibit and don't know what to say when people ask, why would you want to do that? This is for you, first generation of your family to go to university with the weight of that privilege and expectation, all that money spent on you, all that guilt, all that future to fill, and you know you're going to have to pay somehow, but how? And this is for you, thinking you're too old to take a class now that you are 35, 45, or 55. I see you. I see you making art out of almost nothing, out of your sheer will to make something of your own, something different from what you see every day. I see you finding books. I see you sewing and singing and making collages, staying late in art class, playing the piano for Sunday school. I see you playing Dungeons and Dragons and Second Life and RPGs for the pleasure of becoming someone else, and you are so relieved you don't have to call it art and be shamed for it. I can see you cooking and baking for the pleasure of making. I see you learning the names of birds and plants for their mellifluous, tongue-tripping beauty. I can see you mucking out a calf's stall for the sweet smell of hay and baby animal shit, for the calf's tangle of limbs in the morning. I see you running to listen to the rhythm of your breath, that heart music. I see you learning to speak the language of your ancestors. I see you saying the word ancestors with a dawning sense of your own history. Thanks very much.
What a dynamic and honestly motivational performance. Thank you. Wow. Thank you to everyone who came, especially those, not especially, but also to those who read at the open mic. Thank you to our amazing bartenders who are speaking the Rob right now, so I don't want to interrupt that conversation, and to all of those who got hopefully some amazing drinks. Just before I forget, if anyone's concerned with walking alone to the bus stop, we're going to do a group walk. You can come see me or anyone who you know is part of the board, people at the table. Yeah, we can all kind of figure something out. So, and if not, just you can make your way out. Thank you everyone who came. Thank you to our readers, to our open mic readers again. And yes, just again, this is our last open mic, or not last open mic, but last tree reading for the series. We'll be back in the fall in the same location. And also, small press fair is in a week, 2 weeks, next weekend. So please go. It is amazing. I went for my first time at the last one, and I had a blast. So yeah, hopefully I'll see you all there.